What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Quality Talks podcast. You're very lucky today. We've got an unplugged edition going on, and I've got a very special guest that's going to be joining us in a second. Just want to say a big thank you to everybody for subscribing, watching, listening. All your likes, comments, shares do make a massive difference, and we really appreciate your feedback as well in helping us just improve the content that we're dropping. So we're going to get into this really quickly, and I'm going to introduce our special guest. Our special guest is Dora Chatzinaki. Hey, Dora, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, and I'm very happy that we've managed to make this happen because we've been speaking about this for a little bit, haven't we? And
Yeah.
you coming on. So Dora, for those that don't know who you are, I obviously do. Could you just introduce yourself for the audience, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Dora. I've been in London for like 17 years. I studied computer science, so I came here to do my master's degree, and I never left because I fell in love with London. Uh, and yeah, I have quite a long career in tech, starting as an engineer from a small startup, moving on to bigger companies, and then becoming a manager, being a little bit hands-on manager for some time. And yeah, I've got my own podcast about tech called Verified Geek.
I love that title, by the way.
Yeah.
I do love that title. When I saw the podcast name, I thought that's cool. I really like that title.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you on the show, Dora. And I love your background. That view you have out your window is very special. No wonder you love London, if you've got that view. Definitely puts mine to shame behind me. So we had a chat, didn't we, recently about what we could do this episode on, and we've both been in leadership roles, a number of different leadership roles for a while, for a few years, and we talked about how we go about influencing change within an organization, and we thought it'd be really cool to kind of just talk about what that looks like, the challenges that we faced, the different types of roles where you want to and try to influence change, and maybe how your approach potentially needs to differ. So we thought it'd be a really good topic to kind of just pick up on, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are in leadership roles right now, trying to influence change within their organizations, whether it's at scale, whether it's within a team, that could really benefit from just us talking through some of our own experiences and sharing some tips. And we definitely don't have all the answers, people, so don't be thinking you're going to get like gold-plated answers here, but we definitely share some of our own experiences and ways in which we've approached it, and maybe things that have worked and not worked in the past. So Dora, just to start with, in terms of, you mentioned there that you've been in tech for a number of years. How many of those years have you been in more of a leadership type role?
So let's see. In total, I've been in tech for like 17 years. I started when there were not a lot of women in tech.
Yeah.
I started from a startup that was 17 men and myself. That was quite an experience. I was a junior engineer at the time,
Wow.
coding in Flash. I don't know if you remember.
Flash. Oh, just
Fun days.
yes. Yeah.
So yeah, on and off, it's been about like 8 to 9 years
Right.
that I've been hands-on and hands-on manager, which means there's a lot of companies out there, including consultancies and stuff, where they would ask from you to manage people, but also be hands-on because they can't afford not to have engineering hands. Yeah, it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, I mean that's a hell of a place to start when you are literally the only female in that
Yeah.
organization. How did you kind of find yourself feeling and landing into that space, when it was so male dominant?
Yeah, funnily enough, the other day I was thinking about writing a book about this, but just because I want to tell people like how it was back then and how it has
Yeah.
changed. But I didn't think about it a lot back then. I just loved the job, and I was like, "Oh, this is a cool startup." It was a small company. We used to play with the football in the office. We used to have Nerf guns. It was such a fun job that it didn't really occur to me. So yeah, it was. There were things that said at the time that if someone said the same things to me now, I would have been like, "Ooh, that's a bit inappropriate." But it has nothing to do with like sexual stuff. It was a bit like banter and stuff like that. At the time, I was like, "Oh yeah, they're trying to be funny." But right now, maybe it wouldn't be that funny. So that's what I remember. And other than that, there were a lot of women that wanted to start working in tech at the time, either in marketing or software engineering or business analysis. And what I remember was, I told my boss, "Let me handle this. Like, we need more women in the office." And we slowly started hiring more women. And I remember them thinking, "Oh, maybe that's not the job for them," and stuff like that. And I was like, "Don't worry about that. We've all been through that. It's because there's not a lot of us here, but don't think like that." And I remember trying to help women believe in themselves, believe that tech is for them back in the day. Since then, I haven't really stopped. It's one of my goals to see more women in tech. So yeah.
Yeah, I know you're a big ambassador for it, aren't you? And you talk about it at conferences and all sorts. So and you're part of networks and stuff like that, which is amazing to see. And yeah, whilst it may be not as extreme as that now, we still do have a problem, don't we? And I think just talking about change and the topic of influencing change, trying to influence people to think about how do we become more balanced, how do we drive a more equal working environment where opportunities exist for everybody in a fair way. And it's not easy. It's not always just, you can't just snap your fingers and make it happen, right? And you being being a sort of an advocate and an ambassador for that, how have you approached that with sort of within organizations that you've worked, leadership and stuff like that? Because obviously you've not always been in positions of leadership, but you've always wanted to drive and fly that flag, right?
Yeah. So I guess the first step is to understand why change is needed within an organization, and make sure that your opinion matters, because like I said, when you're first starting, when it's your first steps within tech, you don't really know how to navigate, you don't have a lot of experience. So when I gained that experience, and when I saw a few things, and I saw how change can be good for an organization, that's when I was like, okay, I need to bring something different here. It's not just in big organizations, there's organizations in general, that you need that diversity, you need that different point of view. If you don't have it, then it's very like imbalanced. So I always made sure women were like part of an organization because they love being there. And even if there's some hard moments or moments where like they're a bit difficult, I always made sure I shared my story, because there's always going to be moments where you're going to feel, oh, am I is this the right job for me? Am I maybe I should do something else. It's kind of like part of the journey. But yeah, I'm always there. I always made sure to be there and tell these women that no, you were definitely part of this journey. You're definitely good enough. Yeah.
And sort of influencing that type of change, which can be quite scary for people, right? You've got to influence not only within the organization, but you've also got to influence the people that to convince them, right? This is okay, right? This is the
Yeah, yeah,
environment for you. This is a safe place for, you know, females to come and work. You know, the stereotypical days aren't the same anymore, you know. And
exactly. Yeah.
so how have you kind of gone about doing that with people, for, you know, with women, and bringing that level of, I guess, confidence, and, you know, to them, to enable them to think, actually, do you know what, I
Yeah.
can do this, because it's scary, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. How does confidence come into play? I always say it's experience and putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Um, just challenge yourself throughout this career. You're going to be challenged, but the amazing thing is that you're going to come out a lot stronger out of it.
Mm.
And that's one of the main things that I keep on telling, not just, women, but men in general, within an organization, that I know that this scares you. I know that this is scary. I know that we're going to embark into a scary journey,
Yeah.
and we can fail. It's fine. Let's just go and do it. That's where the confidence comes. I think the confidence comes from the fact that there was a lot of failure in my career as well, right?
Mm.
So I learned that those feelings of like the imposter syndrome and the failure is part of it. It's part
Yeah.
of a part of tech. And I've seen, I've tried loads of new things within organizations within my career. I've failed, but also I succeeded.
Yeah.
And I've seen that they've all been, so important and valuable into my journey, that I've learned a lot from it. That's what I try to
Mm.
say to people, even when they're scared about trying something new. I'm like, just go for it, because you're gonna
Yeah.
learn either way. Fail or win, like you're gonna learn either way. And you're gonna come out of this a lot stronger. So I think that's where the confidence comes from.
Yeah. I think I think that's a massive enabler to change in general. If you're able to influence through showing your own vulnerability, through your own experience, and saying, look, do you know what, I've failed loads, right? It's like,
Yeah,
we all have. It's how confident are you sharing those stories? Because often people won't share those types of stories because they don't want to share the failures. They just want to share the successes, right? You see it on
yeah,
social
yeah,
media all the time. It's like, look at my nice shiny life, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's 10% of your life. What about the other
yeah,
90% where things maybe
exactly,
aren't going so great, right?
exactly,
Um,
yeah,
and I found that myself, in terms of when trying to influence change, you know, being the showing that level of vulnerability and honesty, and, you know, to drive and build a level of trust, often helps to just bring people along a little bit more. And, you know, like you say, we can just try it, right?
yeah,
What's the worst that can happen? And I think, if you're in a position of leadership, so, you know, you're leading people, you line manage people, and I know you do a lot of this yourself, in terms of, you know, line managing people, and obviously coaching and mentoring people as well. I think it's easier to then sort of encourage people to try things, and, you know, don't be scared of failure, etc. I find the real challenge comes in when you're trying to influence people that maybe you don't line manage,
yes,
and you're ultimately not the one that they have to answer to. They have to answer to somebody else.
yeah, yeah,
And I find
100%.
that's
Very different story.
yeah, and I find that's where that fear factor comes in a little bit. Like, well, can I really, or can't I,
Yeah.
or, you know, how have you dealt with that sort of thing in the past? Because it's something I've not necessarily struggled with, but had to evolve my thinking around. Okay, I can't just, you know, try and convince this person, because ultimately they don't have to answer to me. They have to answer to another person, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, good question. I mean, yeah, very different story. And to be honest, like you said, I don't have all the answers now. I'm still learning, but I
Mm,
think I think I'm at this level now where I know which steps to follow.
yeah.
Like I said before, you have to understand why change is needed, and make sure that, with your experience, you are moving towards the right direction. Just don't just go into a director or VP coming in with something to change just because you want to be seen.
Yes.
Because I've seen that in the past. You have to like make sure that you
I
you
know.
are 100% sure that you've done this. These things in tech happen many times because we've done something, we know it works, and we see that we can bring change because we see like delays, we see things like things not happening properly, and we're like, oh, by the way, I've done I've done it in a different way in another organization that worked, and I really believe I can bring a change. So that's learn best practices and patience. You have to realize that it takes a lot of patience and it takes time for change to take place. The other thing I do is I pilot projects. I'm like, I'm gonna start something. I'm gonna try and get buy-in, and then collect the data. From the thing that I started. This is usually how it goes. So I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? Get some people involved, get the right people involved, and pilot a project, collect the data, and go to senior leadership with tangible data that look, this is what we're doing now. This is what I've done in the past, or this is what I've seen working. I'm pretty sure we have a good case of changing things here and becoming better. And then, because like you said, it's very tricky. That's not always the case. You might be you might hit a wall, or you might hit, delays and, people not taking you seriously. That happens. What I used to do in the past was take it personally. And that's what I don't do now. It's just,
I used to as well.
But it's difficult, but I used to be like, oh, it's just me. They don't like me. They're not taking me seriously, and they're not this and they're not that. And with experience, I realized that's not how I should take it, because that's your perception. But the perception of leadership, senior leadership, is something completely different. That yes, they saw the data, yes, they saw the project, yes, they know you have the right people, but they might think that this is not going to work. It's fine. Don't take it personally. It's not you. No. That was one of the biggest obstacles that I had to overcome. Don't take it. Just keep on persevering, and don't think that this is you. But yeah, it's like you said, it's always a challenge. Having the right people next to you is key. Getting buy-in from the right people next to you in order to go up is key.
I just you'd have seen me smiling when you said about taking it personally. I used to be exactly the same way. I used to think like, well, this is a great idea. Why wouldn't you like it? I mean, clearly it's me, right? I mean, what's not to like about this idea? But over the years, I've kind of gone, okay, fair enough, that's fine. We'll keep persisting, or we'll switch direction. We'll switch tact or whatever it is. The other thing is kind of like getting that feedback as to why it's not. Why maybe it's not the right thing right now, because it might not be that it's not the right thing for the future. It might just be right now we're not in the best possible place to even contemplate making these types of changes, right? We've got a whole host of other challenges that we're facing that actually we don't even have that insight into because we're not close enough. Or so having a different level of context, having a different level of empathy for your leaders, regardless of what level you might be at. One of the things to always remember is that you don't always have the full picture. Yes. And you may not always be able to get the full picture, just for different reasons, right? You'd like to think that leadership at all levels is as transparent as possible. Now, that's not always the case, but it's the way I've always worked. If I can be transparent with you, I definitely will be. There's certain things, obviously, you can't, and that's okay as well. But it's not always the case. You have to be very mindful of the fact that you might not have all the information. You've gathered all the data that you think is necessary for pushing and promoting the change that you're you're talking about and you think will be a good idea and will work. But if you don't have the full context, that's when that feedback that you get can be really helpful to give you a little bit more reasoning around. Dora, it's not you. It's not the right time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So keeping an open mind around that as well, and actually asking for that feedback, so that the next time you go about it, you've learned something that actually, okay, I need to think a bit bigger next time round, or
100%.
So I think for me, that's something I've learned massively over the years, is to not take it personally, but B, sort of open my mind to a bit more, having more empathy for trying to understand more about actually what the bigger picture looks like as well.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I really like that transparency. I'm an open book, so I kind of expect from other people to be open books, but I realized throughout the years that that's not always the case. You can't just expect from everyone to be like you, right? So it's a bit of a tricky one, but what I've seen, again, like throughout my career, I've been learning from other people. I've been trying to steal the good parts of other people, especially like leaders that inspire me, right? So I steal these nice little skills that they have. And one of those would be perseverance. Like you said, you might be met with obstacles, walls. It might not be the right time. So why not try after a year? I've seen change in an organization after 3.5 years. If I never had the patience to persevere, I wouldn't have seen it in the past. And I've done that many times because I've worked in London, so I've gone from company to company. I used to just leave when I was not happy. They always say, oh, you have to be happy at work. Sometimes it's not going to be that nice. Sometimes you can't always be happy every single day, right?
No.
So I've learned that when I'm met with that challenge and I persevere, that's when I'm actually happy. That's when I'm like, oh, wow, my team did this. We did this together. And perseverance is key. And learn that and accept, like you said, that sometimes it's not the right time.
Yeah. And I think perseverance also, if you've got the passion to persevere, that says to me you are happy in that role. You want to be there. You want to influence change. You want to see something improve. You're engaged, right? If you're in that mindset of like, do you know what, I can't be bothered, then clearly that you shouldn't be there anyway, right? So to your point, you don't have to be happy to be happy in your role.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You don't have to be smiling every day and stuff like that. I mean, we don't every day in life, right? There's things that are thrown at us that make us unhappy. Same thing on a day-to-day basis in any organization that we may work. But I think if you've got the drive and the incentive and the engagement to want to persevere, that then says a lot about you and how you're connected to that company. So, and obviously sometimes circumstance lead to reasons for leaving anyway, but I think if you're willing to take that, be patient, persevere, the rewards will come. They absolutely will come. And regardless of whether you're working within a small organization or a large organization, you have to be very mindful of there are different sort of speeds at which change can happen. There's different red tape you may have to go through, right? There's different sign-offs you have to get. There's different conversations you'll have to have. But like you say, just be persistent. You'll find your way. You'll find the sweet spot of how to navigate it in said team or said organization.
Exactly.
And that just comes with experience.
Yeah. And like you said, it's quite funny because sometimes something extremely difficult that you think, oh, I'm never going to be able to make this work. It happens extremely quickly because the time is right.
I know.
And
exactly.
something that's the obvious, the basics of tech. It takes years, and you're like, why do I have to spend years to to bring in that positive change that I know it works because it's such an obvious thing, right?
Yeah.
So that itself shows you how, agile tech is, how like flexible tech is. You can never know exactly, what tech needs at that time, because like you said, and I've never really worked in like senior leadership, but I do understand. I do have that empathy, like you said.
Yeah.
In the past, I used to think for myself, "Oh, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in that middle management level, and it's such a because nothing goes up, everything goes down." That's what I thought, but that's not the case. That's not. If you convince yourself that that's the case, that's when you lost the game.
Yes.
You have to like keep on working on it.
You do, and I think you've got to be. I think the thing is, you've got to be comfortable in your own skin to be confident that the things that you're trying, like you say, are there and can make improvement. Whether that is now or whether that's in 3 years' time, like you say, that you've got to be confident in yourself, right, and have that self-confidence to believe in what you're driving forward or looking to drive forward. Because if you come to a conversation where you lack confidence in the change that you're trying to present to somebody, then straight away that person's going to be a little bit like, you don't sound too sure. Right. So you yourself have got to really, really understand and be confident in what it is what you're putting forward. And I think that's something that I've learned over the years, as to, doesn't matter who you're speaking to, whether it's a peer at the same level as you, it's the next level up, or it's CEO or CTO or CIO. Be confident, right? You're there for a reason. You're in your role for a reason. You've got this idea for a reason, right? But to your point, if you take the time to gather data, and that data could be analytics, it could be sentiment, it could be anything, right? But you've gathered that data and you believe that the change that you're trying to influence will make things better. Be confident with it.
Yeah. And failure is also part of the game. Like,
absolutely,
I always say that failure is the best feedback you'll ever get in your life.
It may hurt.
It may hurt. Yeah. But there's something magical about trying to bring change. Things don't go 100% right, but out of that, you're like, oh, because it's tech, right? It just changes so quickly.
I know.
It's funny, but with AI, obviously, like things are changing so quickly, but sometimes we're like drowning in like simple tasks at work. I'm like, I can't believe AI is now in place and we're like drowning in simple tasks.
Yep.
So you know what? I can say that I persevered and I really brought some important change in organizations over the time, and in my team. Not a whole organization, but let's say in my team, and then my team went and influenced the organization. That right now I'm like, oh, we could have done it that way now, because there's so many new tools, new ideas coming up all the time. That you, especially in tech, you cannot be 100% right and leave that 20% window. And if things don't go 100% right, just be open to update your change. That's what I do. I always listen to my team. I listen to the people I have next to me. I get inspired by the people that I've seen that have brought change in the past. So I always consult them, and not, I've kept in contact with most of the people that I worked really closely with from different companies. So I consult people all the time. I learn about how do other organizations do things. That's how you meant to do it. You cannot just be, oh, I've done it. It worked with one team. I know this is going to work. You have to see what everyone else is doing as well to
Yes.
have a good idea. But yeah, like failure in tech is it usually leads to something better.
It does, and I think it's, from my experience, it absolutely does. You're right, and I think it's ensuring that you've got the environment and support around you to, enable that failure to happen. Because in some organizations, failure is seen as just that, right? You failed. That's not a
Yeah,
good thing. But actually, to your point, the biggest learnings will always come from failure. So even if the change that you're influencing, for me, if somebody comes to me and says, Stu, I've got this idea, I've seen this challenge, or we're having this challenge, we've got this problem, here's an idea I think that we could do to improve things. The first thing I'll ask is, okay, what support do you need? Right? Because by me providing support, immediately that shows that I'm there. Even if they fail, I'm there to help them
you're there with
succeed,
them.
right?
Yeah,
So, and that's what if I'm trying to influence change, I always look for who's going to be my support network with this, so that I'm not in it on my own, and and flipping that and then making sure that I'm somebody's support network, whether they line into me or not. It's kind of like, how can I support you? If this is a great idea, how can I support you, right?
yeah,
And we did this recently, right? We did this, it supported each other in some changes, which was great, right? And
yeah, yeah.
so it doesn't have to be within your same team. It can be across teams. It can be across
Across teams. Yeah, yeah,
different roles, different disciplines. It doesn't matter. And I think that the as as you become more confident because you gain more experience, you're then able to support people better anyway, just by the nature of what you've done in the past, right?
exactly.
um,
Yeah,
and I think that's where mentoring and coaching comes in. So I was talking about earlier about it's not as easy to influence and convince people to try new things if they don't necessarily line into you, but that's where you can mentor and coach people that in a different way, that maybe they don't line into you. You can pull on
yeah,
those types of skills,
yeah,
and that can massively help as well.
yeah, yeah. Funny you say that. Sometimes we think that the employees at like a big level are the ones that are able to bring good change, but the reality is, especially in tech, change can come from any level, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
From junior engineers to, the tricky part is for them as well. I was asked recently, like, how do we make sure we take, people's opinions seriously, no matter what level they're on?
yeah,
So I listen to everyone, junior engineers that have only been coding for like 6 to 7 months. I've worked with Code Your Future, which is basically, I was teaching people how to code in a like 7 month boot camp, and then helping them find jobs. And the amount of things that I've learned from them, I'm like, I can't
mm,
believe that they have been doing this for like only 3-4 months. I've been doing this for years, but
yeah,
I'm still learning how to bring change. You just have to be open.
yeah.
You have to be open to give people the right tools, and show them the right path, sorry, to bring change. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think it. You say that about people that are new will often ask the questions, right? They'll often be the ones that will be like, why are we doing all that? What what's the reason behind it? Is
yeah,
and often that in itself drives a conversation to say, do you know what? I don't actually know. So
yeah, 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 yeah,
maybe we should look at this, right? Go away and have a think about how we could do it better, right? If
yeah,
and I've seen that. I love working with people that are new to our industry, and obviously I work in the software testing and quality space. So often, people that come into our our world, so to speak, don't come from a tech background necessarily, right? So
Yeah.
you'll get a lot of people that will come into the quality space that have come from a different background completely. So then they'll ask completely different types of questions, which will
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
like, okay, this is great because this actually now is generating new ideas. Coming back to what we were talking about right at the start about diversity of ideas and stuff like that. It's not just about gender thing. It's about how do we mix our teams up with different people from different backgrounds as well, and so on and so on, because that then drives change and can help influence change from
Yeah.
absolutely anywhere, like you say.
Yeah.
And again, it's just for giving them the confidence to do it is the key thing.
Yeah, funny that you say that. I can name so many different backgrounds. Physics, math, law, criminology, like
Yeah,
it's people from all over the world, over
yeah.
all different backgrounds. It's just, yeah, it's amazing the diversity of ideas we can access and we have access to. It will be a crime to just like dismiss them. So yeah.
So Dora, obviously we've worked in some big organizations, and with big organizations comes scale, right?
Yeah.
We're talking like hundreds and thousands of people, and you know, many teams, and all this sort of stuff. Um, over the time that you've been, in your roles, in leadership roles, and operated more, say, at scale, within larger organizations, what would you say has been the biggest challenge outside of just the sheer number of people? What would you say has been the
Yeah.
biggest challenge around influencing change versus, say, when you might have been in a smaller organization,
Yeah.
to overcome?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess smaller organizations, they don't have a lot of time. That's
Mm,
the issue, right? You with smaller organizations, I had to do a few jobs. I had to do like project management, testing, software, especially like 17 years ago.
yeah,
Startups in tech were so new. They were like, okay, what do we need? Tester. Okay, we'll get the product manager to test.
yeah,
They can test.
yeah, yeah,
So it's one of those things. Obviously, we were testing as well, manual testing. Everyone was testing. We were only a tiny, um, tiny little company. So change is very difficult to be initiated in smaller organizations because they will
mm,
tell you, look, we have this client breathing right next to our face, like he's really, they are, they want, the deliverables to be delivered really fast,
yeah,
or look, we don't have time, we said we were supposed to deliver this project by this date, and there's no time to do the basics, let alone bring something completely new that
mm,
might fail, you know. So you will need good tangible data. You will need good experience in order to influence, a small organization, because they have really tight deadlines.
mm,
That's where I think that's one of the main reasons why I really like working for bigger organizations. It's
mm,
not that I don't like startups. I love like smaller companies and startups because the community is like
yeah,
that feeling of a community is there. But I found out that in bigger organizations, you will have the time.
mm,
You will have the time to do loads of things, to bring in your experience, to try and influence other teams, to bring teams together. The tricky part is this: it's at scale, right?
yeah,
So you have different teams with different backgrounds. So what I find really difficult is the part where I'm like, let's all come together to do this. But then I realize they all, you know, have different ideas. They all perceive that change in a different way.
Yeah.
So then comes the training, right? So you have to train them, or you have to, you know, be able to understand that you might not have the chance to bring in a lot of teams together. You might have to start small, start from like a tiny little team and then go up.
Yeah.
And that might take years. But the good thing is you have the time. You have the time to do it. That's just from experience, because I've worked in small companies where we were like deliver, 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 deliver. There was no time to breathe.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are the main challenges.
I think it's interesting, isn't it, when you think about like working in a smaller organization, like a startup or something. Often people will think, oh, it must be so much easier to influence change because it's a smaller group of people. You haven't got to, you know, connect with so many. You haven't got to gets the buy-in for. But actually, there's a real fast-paced agenda because guess what? Maybe they don't have much money. Maybe they need to sell their product to get the money to keep going, to keep, and so on and so on. So it can have a like you say, it can be a case of it's not the right time actually in the
Yeah.
smaller organization. It really isn't the right time. And then you have to think about, okay, let's park it and think about that later or whatever. So I think it's a really interesting insight because, as I say, a lot of people would think that smaller means quicker
Yeah,
to
yeah.
influence
That's not
change.
always the case.
It's
Yeah.
definitely not always the case, is it? And I think when you're working at scale, it might take longer, but you're more likely to get the backing. You're more likely to get the funding
Yes,
as well
exactly. Yeah,
within
yeah,
in a larger organization.
yeah,
And I think for me, the biggest challenge working in larger organizations is the organizational structure.
yeah,
So dependent on what the org structure looks like and how that is built up and how that's connected or not connected. So, you know, that for me is always the biggest challenge because
yeah,
if it's quite, let's say segregated,
yeah,
and there's so many different models out there, right? It's like it's
yeah,
insane the amount of organizational structures I've been through, and I'm like, okay, can we just not have one for everybody in the world? That'd just be so much easier.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But if it's quite segregated, that then, like to your point, can be quite. You have to start small, but then how do you connect all these different teams across
Yeah,
all of these different verticals? If you've got verticals, for example, I don't know, some organizations are built around outcomes, some are built around verticals of products or whatever that looks like.
yeah,
So where do you start? It's like,
yeah,
and for me, it's like, where do I even start to influence this change?
yeah, yeah. That's a good question. And um you'd think that because of the fact that we have these best practices set in tech, like agile, this, that, waterfall back in the day, you'd think that every company would work in a similar way, right? But
Mm.
no, you go into an organization and you're like, oh my God, this is quite different to what I've seen in the past. And I'm going to be honest, what I've noticed is you can never have it right 100%. There's going to be organizations where there's they're good at something but bad at something else, and then you go somewhere else and
Yeah,
they're not doing the basics, but with like really difficult stuff they're amazing,
yeah,
you know. So I think learning the the structure, like you said, learning exactly how an organization works before you go into
yeah,
it with a suggestion is key. um and it's amazing, but I think connections within the company are so important. I just
yes,
learn from people.
yeah,
I learn from being an open book and asking other people to be an open book towards me.
mm.
That's how I learn. That's how I learn how the teams work. You know, it's amazing, but sometimes you go somewhere and you're like, oh, I'm an engineer, I'm just going to sit in my lane.
Yeah.
Don't sit in your lane. There's so many different lanes for these ideas to come to your desk. You have to learn how these lanes work.
Yeah.
And you have to build in connections. You have to get to know the people. And to be honest with you, that's what I love about this job. It's not the fact that, pipelines are failing and my code is broken in production. I never there were moments in this job where when I was coding, that I just wanted to throw the computer out the window. It's a tough job. But the people is what kept me.
Yeah.
And I realized that you have to understand how a company works within. You have to build in connections, get outside of your lane,
Yeah.
and then you can be okay. Now I know who to speak to, how I can bring in that suggestion, where can this, idea of mine go to, who do I contact first, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, coming back to what you were saying earlier about, gathering data and such like to sort of support the change you're trying to influence. Some companies are very big on that. They want to see the data, right? They want to understand the problem. They want to see the data. Other organizations are a bit more loose with it and go, okay, let's just try it and see what happens,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so you do really need to understand how, what that sort of cultural element is within the organization. And it might be actually on this particular day they want to see the data, and on this particular day they don't, and that's also okay. But understanding
True.
that's it may swing one way or the other depending on
Yeah.
who you're speaking to, or the level that you're trying to influence change, etc., is really important. And this is something that's always frustrated me in the past, where, and you touched on this earlier, about new leaders come in and immediately they try and influence change, almost feels like for change's sake.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
haven't taken the time to really understand what all the problems are. And it's more like, well, this is how it worked in my previous organization, and this is what I'm comfortable with. Therefore, this is how I'm going to, wrap this up, and I'm going to change things so that it makes me more comfortable in my role.
Yeah.
And that's something that, being in positions of leadership, I can never do. I'm like, no, this isn't about me. This is about everyone else. So if
Exactly.
I need to come in here and influence change, don't be looking at me from day one to be going, right, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because I want to learn, to your point, I want to learn about the landscape. I want to learn about the people. I want to learn about the history, the context, what's gone before. Because I could go in there in my first week and go, we're going to try this. And immediately somebody go, yeah, we've tried it. It didn't work.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay. Now I need to
And
understand why it didn't work. And
yeah. Yeah.
so.
And I found that sometimes I remember how I was when I was a junior engineer in a company, and I was there for like loads of years, 6, 7 years, and someone new came in and said, "Oh, we're going to change this." I remember how I was like, "Who is this person?" Like, I've been here 7 years, you know. Um, I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
And I kind of did the same thing when I went to a new company. I was like, oh my God, I need to do this and I need to do that. And
Yeah.
I had all of these ideas in my head. And I was like, and then I remembered, Dora, it takes time. Remember, you can't
Yeah.
just go in and be like, I'm changing everything. Just like,
No.
do you remember how you felt when someone else did it? And it was, you get found out. Like if someone is in there for just themselves, um, it's just, it's not at some point people
Yeah.
will see that this is not for you. We're actually, if you care for everyone, if you really really like your job, it's your passion, and
Yeah.
you're there because you want to help the organization and the people, then change will come.
Yeah.
But don't go and do it just for the sake of doing it, just for you to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand it, right? Yeah, as we go up the levels, and become more visible, people are like, obviously the spot, you feel like there's a spotlight on you. You feel like there's a spotlight on you, and you need to be seen as being a difference maker.
Yeah.
Right. So there is that pressure to actually want to change stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And you go looking for stuff to change. And I've worked in places before where we've had senior leadership changes, and that person's come to me and gone, right, what do we need to fix? And I'm like, well, to be honest, there's not a whole lot from my perspective. I feel like it's working pretty well and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, come on, there must be something. It's like, well, I mean, the toilets don't work very well.
Yes.
If you want to fix them, please go ahead. But you know what I mean. And you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I understand that. I understand that there's that pressure. And I understand that there's that feeling that I need to be seen to be being, a difference maker, changing things. But it's not about changing things,
Yeah.
right? It's about fixing the things that need to be fixed. And
Exactly.
you need to
understand why change is needed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to take that time to understand what they are.
Yes.
But then also, don't feel as though it's all on you to do it, right? The best way that I've influenced change is through others.
Yeah.
Right? Empowered others, right? And gone, okay, collectively we know that we've got a problem here because we've talked about it, right? We've had a discussion about it. We know that there's an issue here, right? How do we think that we can solve this problem? I've got some ideas, but what does everybody else think?
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone's ideas. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And then obviously those other ideas can be led through other people. That the people that come up with the ideas can then go, okay, cool, that sounds like a really cool idea. How do you fancy leading on that and go and rolling with it and see where we get to?
Yeah.
Right? Because that creates engagement and stuff like that. It doesn't
I've
void me
always.
of accountability, by the way. I'm still
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
accountable.
Yeah. You're
But
still accountable. Yeah.
yeah.
I've always said that I've never really done anything big on my own.
No.
But I've done it with others, through others, and it's just you cannot get it 100% right. You need the different views. You need the different ideas. You need different backgrounds, different experiences on the table to bring in good change, right? I'm going back into my career, and I'm like, I've always done it with other people, and I've always done it. I was influenced by them; they were influenced by me, and that's the most amazing thing. Just seeking that, reassurance that you're the best is this is never going to work. It's you're only as good as your team is. You're only as good as your environment is. So yeah.
Yeah. And just thinking about this, obviously, if we want to do this with people, we want to do it through people, we want to give people the opportunities, enable them, enable change through them, etc., etc. But they've got to trust us, right? As leaders, you've got to earn that trust. And for me, that's something that I don't take lightly. That's I go into any new role knowing I've got to earn trust. It's like it's not a given. I'm not going to have it from day one. I will trust everybody, but I know I've got to earn their trust.
Yes.
And one of the things that I like to sort of in those early days is actually understand what is it I need to do to enable trust. Yeah. And hear what people say. For you, Dora, what are those things like? What does trust look like for you? And also, how have you sort of gone about that with your own teams to build trust with them?
Yeah. That's definitely something that I'm still learning. That's definitely something, one of the great things I've seen in you. So I like I said, I go back to my previous years, and I remember that person that came in the team, and they were like, let's change it now, and I was like, we barely know you. So I carry that with me all the time. So it's exactly what you said. I'm like, wherever I go, I have to understand. I know who I am. I know what I can bring on the table. But the reality is no one else does, right? So
Yeah.
you have to start from scratch. You have to bring in different ideas. Get what I always do, and I love doing that. I always find people within an organization that have, either worked in different companies or the same companies as me, like different, like same sector, because it's tech, but tech
Yeah.
is like quite big. And I would go and get some ideas, like, oh, we used to do that in a consultancy, have you done it? And they're like, oh yeah, we used to do that in this. So I kind of make sure that I have the right people next to me. You always have to bring the right ideas to the right people, because if you try and find fancy ideas and the people around you are like, we have no clue what you're talking about, or they've never done it before, they've never seen anything before, it's a bit, I don't think you're going to build trust.
No.
So I just find that connection with people and letting them know that, oh, you know what, I've done in the past, I've done something similar in the past, like you did. Do you want to bring it in and see how it works? And if we fail, we failed. Failure is on the table as always, right? So it little things like that. But another thing I used to do is I was very impatient, because I would be, oh my God, I know how to fix this. Just let me do it. Let me show you how to do it.
Yeah.
That never works. It just never, even if you're 100% right,
Yeah.
you have to be patient. It will take time. It will take, you building new connections. It will take you understanding what have other people done, what what do other people want to see change. You have to understand, you have to talk with everyone. You have to sit with everyone and be like, okay, tell me, how was your week? Tell me how I can make it better.
Yeah.
Not just long term, short term, like it's all of these things. And just collect all of these ideas and all of these perceptions, because perception becomes reality, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, if I come in a company and you as Stu, you might know that I'm really good at my job, right? But if 150 to 200 people think that I'm not good at my job, that's what becomes a reality, right?
Yeah.
So it will take time. It will take a lot of time. So patience is the main skill that you need to acquire, and not take things personally, like we said before.
The two P's, patience and don't
Yeah,
take things
yeah,
personally. Yeah, absolutely. Dora, we've been talking for almost an hour.
yeah.
We're gonna have to wrap this up, but this has been a huge amount of fun. I've really enjoyed this, and there's
Me
a lot.
too.
Even there's so much more we can unpack. I know there is. So I'd love
Yeah,
to get you back on at some point, and maybe we dive deeper into some of the different areas that we've touched on.
yeah.
Before we drop, though, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience from your experience that maybe we haven't mentioned yet?
I think we pretty much touched upon everything. What I always say is that we keep on learning. We live and we learn. I know for a fact that I don't know everything. Whoever comes into a company just having that attitude of I know everything, listen to me, it's just never going to work, because I know that they don't know everything. It's such a
Yeah,
fast paced, you know tech in general is such a fast paced environment that no one knows everything, right? So yeah, just be patient, and yeah, just try and learn the organization, try and become part of the community before you bring in change.
nice. I love that. Thank you again, Dora. This has been amazing. You are amazing. And yeah, thank you for coming on the show. That's it for this episode, everyone. So hopefully you've got some really cool insights from Dora's experience, and we'd really be keen to hear sort of like what you think of what we've been talking about, but also share your own insights into how you maybe go about influencing change within your organizations. What are some of the challenges you're facing? And we can always talk about them on LinkedIn, and share your ideas on there as well. So yeah, but thank you again, Dora.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you.
We love having you on. That's it for this episode. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, and join us next time on another episode of Quality Talks podcast. Take care for now.